Okay, we probably should have changed the name because you are not Christopher Kies.
No, I'm not.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Hey, I'm really grateful we're able to do this.
yeah,
So I was mentioning to you earlier, I wanted to learn from your perspective of what it was like to be able to put your thoughts down on paper for your dad, which we're able to give to him 3, 4 months ago, maybe longer
yeah, yeah,
by this point.
yeah.
And I remember I first reached out to your mom, who then I think she was the one that
She's the
connected
one who
the two of
spreaded
us,
the
right?
word. Yeah, she told
Okay,
me.
because I was trying to connect the dots. I was like, how did I connect to
Yeah,
Sophie, and how did we get the message to her? I think it was
yeah.
through your
It was my
mom.
mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, what was it like? Like, I mean, take me from the beginning. What was it like to put it all together on paper? Was it challenging? Was it not so hard? Um,
Um, it was pretty mind-boggling at first. Like I had no idea about anything. Like I didn't even know what I was really writing for, honestly. My mom goes, "Hey, there's this guy Oleg, it's your dad's friend, and he wants you to write and a ton of other people in this book for your dad, just something you like about him." I'm like, "Oh, that's sweet." I'm like, "I have no idea what it looks like. I have no idea where it's going to. I didn't even know you at the time." So I'm just like, I'm writing, hoping it gets to the right person. I don't even know who he is. Like,
hmm
so I'm like, okay, like, what do I do? So I'm like kind of emotionless. I'm like not in it or anything. Like, so I'm like, for me, I write a lot based on like, for like songs and stuff, very artistic. So I use that as like my starting point. I'm like, okay, what would I start with the song? Because I'm like, I have no idea what to even start with. Like, so I'm like, okay, how would I start like a song? I'm like, so how am I feeling? Well, I don't have any feelings, so I can't really use that. But based off of like, okay, so theme, go off theme. And I was like, okay, my dad, let's start there. What's a good memory I had with my dad? I believe I wrote about when he was building the house, right?
I haven't
Um,
read it, to be honest with you. I haven't read any of them, just as a way to kind of
yeah.
preserve whatever privacy and things, because people do share very deep and personal things, as I'm sure you have.
Hmm.
So I was even gonna ask you, like, what
Yeah, I think
about?
I'm pretty sure I haven't gone over it since like we first got the book, but
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure talked about how he built the house and how impressive that was to me. So my dad built a house and based off no knowledge on building a house, I was like 3, 4 maybe, and I'm like, okay, I didn't know. I was just like, okay, my dad's building a house. Cool. Cause I'm like, doesn't everyone do this in their 40s? Like, doesn't everyone build a house at some point in their life? So I was like, looking back, being older, I'm like, I don't, I'm very lucky to have my dad because
Mm,
he taught me a lot. He would teach me how to like do math and like, me and my dad, we have this strange connection. It's like, we get like I would say our bond is based off of like when we can like get into the right energy connection together because some days it's like we're like opposites and we're just not talking that day like it's yeah, so it was kind of hard because I mean me and my dad have ups and downs all the time. We have different agreements on things, and so I was kind of in a state of like, okay, what's like one of the good things I could write about? And so I'm like, I love my dad. I love the things he does. And I just was like talking about like, it's like built like the structure of a home is a structure of relationships.
mhm,
So basically, the start of a house is the start of a relationship. You don't really know what the house is going to look like based off of just this blueprint. You only know what you think you know until
mhm,
it comes to life. So I was like, when my dad was like showing me the inside of the house once it was built, it was like, wow, my dad did all that. My dad took what was inside his brain and made it happen. Like, that is so crazy. And like, when I was little, I was like, oh, cool, whatever, like I was exploring and I was going up onto like, he built this like little really high in cave like shelf above,
mm.
like, it was a huge wall. I'd say it's like, to me, it felt huge at the time. I don't know, maybe it's smaller now that I'm taller, but it was, to me, it was very high up, and he had this huge ladder, and he would help me climb it and get to the top, and I just looked over, and I would sit there with him for a good 15 minutes just chatting. How was preschool? What did you do? And I just remember that being like a staple memory of my childhood. Like, that was the one thing out of all the things I like remember about him, is that
Mm-hmm.
he would build, and he told me a lot of stuff, because I really don't remember a lot from it, but the one thing I do remember is like when we would have lunch together as a family after preschool, and my mom would take me home from school, and then we'd go straight to Casa Segunda, which is the name of the house he built, and we would just talk, and we'd have egg salad sandwiches and carrot juice, because I loved my carrot juice. And that's how he stood out to me, as just a man who builds and creates, and that inspired me to write songs and everything that I know today.
Is he
So
still a part of that? I was trying to remember from when we were talking. Does he still help with the song creation?
no, he didn't. He inspired me to start writing based off his blog, actually, because I remember once he started doing his blog, um, that was when he told me writing was cool. So I kind of like look up to him as like my ideas are not all of them are based off of what he does and what he likes, but most of them I would say he contributes a lot to. He's like, I write my blog, I did a blog every day or whatever, and he learned how to do that. And if he can learn how to write a blog within a day, I'm like, okay, maybe writing's not as bad as I'm thinking, because he's like, I really enjoy writing when it's a topic I can. And I'm like, oh, well, once in a while, maybe there's like a story I read in school that I really like, so it was easier. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then it just all came together as just my first song, and I wrote it with my friend Paige. And I kind of thank my dad for that, because he's the one who kind of taught me how to write and read and everything. Like, we would read together. I'm
Yeah, he told
dyslexic,
me.
but
Hmm.
it's a lot better now. But how he would teach me how to read and comprehend was, we would read every single night except weekends. I think we maybe even did weekends, I'm not sure, but every night it was just, we would read together, and it was like a thing we loved to do. It wasn't like, oh, I have to read. Well, maybe some nights because I was more tired, but I was like, it doesn't matter to me, because I'm like, it's my dad and I love him, and I don't really get to connect with him. Something we haven't done in a really long time, which I'm just now realizing, is we used to do movie nights, or what we call date nights, which is where
Mm-hmm.
me and him, we would just sit in the living room and watch movies on Friday nights.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. My parents and I used to do that actually quite a bit. When I was probably around your age until maybe end of middle school, a couple years into high school, we used to do the same thing every single week. You may or may not remember this, but we used to go into this store called Blockbuster and Family Video, and we would go in there, and the choice was that we were able to pick one movie, which my brother and I had to agree upon, and then each one of us got a chance to pick a video game for that week as well. So then we'll come back the following Friday or Saturday and return those. But you know, there's something interesting about those times, and I'm curious to hear from your perspective as well, where I was able to sit in the same room as my parents, both my mom and my dad and my brother, and watch a movie. And it's not like words were exchanged, but there was something being exchanged, some
Yeah.
level of connection, some level of bonding. And I've never really figured out like what it was, but it was something that I think contributed to us being even closer and being able to talk and share about those things. Do you think in your case it's similar? Like did it create a level of comfort due
Yeah.
to those activities where you can be much more open with your dad due to a lot of
Yeah.
those?
I mean, I would say that is the main thing that we would do, even if we had like a bad day or something. It was always
Mm.
movie night. There wasn't a night where we were mad at each other and we didn't do movie night. Like, it was like unsaid. We're like, I'm mad at you. We're having movie night. Let's go. Like, because it just, even just being in the same room, like, it like gave you some perspective of like body language, and being like, I love you. I can't say it right now, but I love you when you need to know that. So it's like, you just observe based off of, like, every morning my parents are in the room talking. I'm getting ready for school. Sometimes I'll join them, or we'd sit outside, and there's just something so like refreshing every once in a while, especially for me, because I'm a very like right now I'm a very closed off in my thoughts kind of person. Like, what do I want to do with my future? Like, what am I into right now? What do I want to learn? I'm very into learning right now about a lot of different things. So when I am with my family, though, it's very nice and refreshing to just talk. And I'll talk about my problems. I'll be like, this is what's up. I don't want advice right now, or I just need to be heard out right now. Like, and it's just like very nice because it's like not many families get the opportunity to like not some even families don't even have like a dad or something or like a father figure. I know a couple people that didn't have like a true father figure, and that destroyed them. And I'm like, wow, that is so powerful. I'm like, I'm grateful I even have my dad. I mean, and this isn't one of my very favorite memories of being with him, but we used to do math together because I don't know why, but math I get math and I kind of like it depending on what it is. But back in like third grade when it really started getting frustrating to like learn with my dyslexia and everything, and just like my comprehension, and like it was insanely hard. And my dad, he didn't know how to teach really, like he did not. He's like, I don't know how to teach you, because he would show me a division problem or a multiplication problem, and I would mess up the same exact part at least 70 different times because I'm like, I don't get it. And he's like, I don't know how to help you. And so he's just like so frustrated. I'm crying and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And he's like, I just told you. And then he's like making me figure it out. I'm like, I'm drawing a blank for like the 70th time, Dad. Like, but I mean, even though it wasn't like the best moment of being with my dad, I'm still grateful that I have him and that it was there and that it was a moment, you know? Like, I mean, I kind of look back at it now and laugh. I'm like, haha, like, you know, when you used to yell at me because I didn't know how to multiply this one part of a problem. But like,
Wow.
yeah, I don't know, just something so powerful about emotion. It doesn't really matter how extreme the moment was or like how much he would like yell, or like he didn't even really yell, he was just kind of like frustrated. He's like, I don't know what to do. And like,
Sure.
but I'm glad I got like I didn't just get the good out of him, because if I did, then I wouldn't know who my dad is. Like, I'd be like, oh, he's this amazing person who doesn't mess up at all, and he knows how to build and do all these cool things. But yeah,
And then the first time he would scream at you, you would probably
I
run
was
away.
like, there was a couple good years there where I did not want to really like engage too much with him unless I like had to for school reasons, because it was just like really hard to be around that sense of like anger in a sense, because he was so frustrated with how to teach me. And I'm like, well, I can't be around that because he and I do a similar thing, which is, I'm not trying to like talk about how bad he is, because he's an amazing father, by
Sure.
the way.
He truly
But
is, yeah.
he and I do this thing where we talk and process everything out loud at least like 5 times. So if there was a bad day where I don't remember something, or like he wants to test if I even remember it, he would go over the problem, or like certain problems with the same like, I don't know, if it was multiplication, he'd go over different multiplication problems even after we finished the homework. And I'm like, Dad, are you serious right now? Like, I'm literally stressed out to the max and you're gonna make me do this? And then at dinner, he would make me even do more. I'm like, can I eat in peace? Like, I love you, but I need space. But
What
yeah,
was what was it like growing up with that experience? What was it like growing up with dyslexia? Do you what did you learn? What are you still learning about it?
I
Was
mean,
it
growing up,
challenging?
it was challenging, yeah. It wasn't that bad. I mean, I obviously learned to adapt to it. It's not
Mhm.
as severe. My parents both have dyslexia in some
Mhm.
ways. It's not severe at all. But it was definitely noticed as a child. So they like growing up with it. I knew I was further behind than a lot of other people, because like some other people, like I'm someone who, if I don't have step-by-step instructions with someone there to go through with me, or
Mhm.
like say it out loud, I would like I'd pull up the
Hmm.
blinds, or I'd put my hair in front of my face and like go down. Like, that was my everyday in like 3rd grade to 5th grade at least. It was terrible. Like, I just remember coming home crying and being like, I don't want to go back to school. Don't make me go back to school, because it was so hard. I actually remember, and my teachers, they made us read books that weren't age appropriate at all. Like, they were for like college kids. I'm not even kidding. Like, it was like the robe was askew, and that was every single sentence had like a word that would, like, you would look it up. Even my parents had to look up some words, and my dad would read a sentence and then explain to me what the sentence meant, and then he'd go through, like, it was insane, the stuff we had to read. So that's made me feel more like I had less ability to do things, because obviously I struggle with words and stuff sometimes, but that just made me even more of like, you can't do it. How dare you not know how to read? Like, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not as advanced. But now being older, I'm like, they were just more advanced than I was. Like, good for the 2 people in the class who could read the freaking book all by themselves. But I'm like, I'm not there yet. I don't know if I'll ever be there, and that's okay, because I just learned to accept the fact that I'm not going to be like everyone else, and that took a long time to, adapt to and be like, okay, I might be a little further back, but I can now. I'm currently like, what am I good at? What can I do? What can I do? And it's not like what I used to do is, what can I do that others can't? What can I do that I'm better at other people at? Like, I stopped doing that because it gave me confidence, but not in the way where it was like, I'm great at things and I'll get better. No, it was kind of like I would pity myself for not being able to do things as well, but I could still do them. So then I stopped saying that, and I just said, what can you do? What can you do, and how can you get better at it? I phrase it that way now. And so I kind of like mentally challenge myself to like figure out how to do new things. Like, I'm like, that's what another thing that my like dad taught me with dyslexia is like, I built a house with dyslexia. I built a tree house based off of no knowledge. If I can learn how to build, you can learn whatever you want to do, even with this dyslexia. So now, based off of that, I'm going to like figure out what I want to do based off that, but over time, get more adapted to certain different things, and then see how I end up and like what I feel like
Wow.
doing.
What gave you the perspective? I'm really curious about this part. You mentioned changing your language, right? Changing from I can do this, and kind of getting away from the whole comparing yourself to other people. Well, I can do this better than them. What gave you that insight? Was it a book? Was it your parents? Was it someone else? Where did you figure that out?
I kind of figured it out on my own, honestly, after like kind of processing a lot of like people being really rude to me. I remember one time I wrote on this in Spanish class. My teacher had these like huge googly eyes on the board, and I was drawing on it, and I thought it looked really good. And this one kid come up to me and goes, "You're not artistic, you're autistic, and that looks horrible." And I was so hurt, and my teacher was like, "You can't say that, like, how like, detention, whatever," to that other kid. And I just remember being so distraught and like very like down about myself about that. And then like there were other things that people have said before to me, I don't even
Sure.
remember, but like there was a lot of things that people would like tell me, and I'm like, okay, well, obviously I'm not the best drawer anymore. Like, that's what I'm like, why am I not better than this person? I'm like, I would watch like amazing tutorials on people dancing, people doing art, people singing, and I'm like,
Mm,
I would try and practice and do what they could do. And I'm like, I'm obviously not cut out to be the best of the best for anything right now. Maybe one day, but everyone has their own strengths, and maybe. And I said, you know what? Not everyone is this person. That is one person out of a lot of different people in the world with a ton of different skills. I'm like, so I gotta change that narrative to what can I just do? Like, what is it that I can just do? Because clearly this person can do that, but just at a different level. And that's what I've been learning throughout my whole life, is that people have different levels, and I'm on a different level from everyone else. And maybe it's on certain things, like maybe I'm higher on the scale at dancing than another person is, but they can read and comprehend way better than I can. Like, but I learned that it's, at the end of the day, that really doesn't matter, because it's kind of who you are as a person. And you can either like cave in on yourself for it and feel really bad about who you are as a person and let that determine your success, or you can rise above it and move on to, okay, what do I like? What do I prefer as my narrative? That's what I changed it to. What do I prefer to do? What makes me happy? And use that as like a guide for life.
That's really impressive. That's really impressive to be able to do that, because I've realized and learned similar things throughout my own life, as you and I had plenty of conversations about that. But I think you're so spot on. I think there does become a point, or there can become a point, where you make that decision, and I think that's all it ever is a decision to not let the opinions of other people determine who you are and what you can and can't do in the world. And to some degree, I've also learned to accept the fact that when people tell you those things, it's not necessarily a reflection of who you are, it's a reflection of themselves, right?
Yeah.
So if someone says you can't jump this high, you can't play basketball, you can't do this, you can't do that, I've started to accept that as it's not an accurate enough assessment of them assessing me. It is assessment of who they are and their own abilities and capabilities. And that was a turning point when I started to realize, and it sounds like for you too.
Yeah.
From when would you say you received that comment in Spanish class? 5th grade?
8th grade.
8th grade. How long did it take you, not that you were counting or had any sort of
Yeah.
timer, but how long did it take you to actually work through that comment and get it to a point where you started to realize that, okay, what was said and how it was said does not have to be how I choose to look at myself moving forward?
Towards the end of the year of 8th grade, actually, is when
Oh,
I really
wow.
started doing my work. I was in art class, and obviously, I think my dad showed you the picture. He
Yes.
did show you. So, towards the end of 8th grade, right, I had made this drawing of a horse, and it's very
Which is
good.
exceptional. Like,
I know.
anyone who hasn't seen it, that was like, wow.
It was insane, and
I've only seen pictures like that at art shows or art galleries. I kid you not.
yeah, and so drawing that made me realize how insane my talent was. Like, it was insane. Like, my teacher's like, I'm like, oh my god, this is so out of my comfort zone. Like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, she's like, here, step by step. And so I'm like, okay, maybe if I just take this little part and focus on that, and then take it, and then, like, section it off. So that's what she taught us how to do. And I swear, at once it got to like where I sketched out the horse that I did, because it was a horse, and start like coloring it in, it felt like a puzzle, and like I knew where every single piece went and how to blend perfectly, and it
Hmm.
was like I was just being guided to like I don't even know, it was insane. And I remember my teacher would like, she would really like, she knew I had a talent, so she would challenge me a lot. And I
Hmm.
remember I'd come home and I'd be like, oh, she was so annoying today. And my dad's like, well, she knows you're really good. And I'm like, I guess. I'm like, I don't know yet, because I'm like halfway done and it looks pretty good and I'm excited about it. But, and then long and behold, she's like, I want this in my art show. And I'm like, okay. I didn't know there was going to be an art critic there. I had no idea. I just said, okay, take whatever of my art you would like that I have done and do whatever
Hmm.
you want. I don't care. I'm just happy that I got to do this, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And she takes it, and she takes like, I think all of my pieces actually that I did, and puts them all in the art show. And a critic comes, and they wanted my horse in this book that they had of really good like photos. And so I come home and I'm like jumping up and down. I'm like, oh my god, Dad, guess what? I got published in an art show. I just need you to sign this. And I'm like, oh my god. And he's like, oh my god, that's insane. And then like long and behold, I'm like walking by his office, which is his office right now. And he's like, come on in, Sophia, come on in. And then he pulls me in the frame. He's like, my daughter's a published artist. Like, look at this horse. And I'm like, Dad, stop. But yeah, that's where my confidence started to go up finally, because I'm like, I can do things. I can do art. Like that is a good thing that I can do. And it's just I just was with the like artistic ability that I had. You don't want to think, you don't want to like try and figure it out. You just kind of do, which is what I was doing. And I had no idea of where it would take me. And it's mind boggling how you start with nothing basically, and then you end up with so much that you're like, oh my god, how did I meet in the middle here? How did I do that? And it's insane. So after that, the end of the year, I had to write a speech for my English class. And I was just like, I'm going to start a job. I'm going to go, like, do things. And that's where writing came in, because he was like, I want you to write a, what was it called? It was like, I can't remember the word, but it was like, he wanted us to write sections of different, like, it was like chapters of,
Okay.
like, I'll think of the
Like a
name.
timeline, like a
Yeah, it's
plan,
like,
5-year, 10-year plan, something like that?
yeah, but it wasn't like, it was like different parts of your life that have already happened, and what you're like, I don't know if it was certain themes we got or we got to pick themes, but for
Mhm.
each one we got to pick like a theme,
Mhm.
and we had to write at least 5 paragraphs, I think it was, for each one. Sometimes I'd even go above and beyond because I was just so proud of it. But like I got to write about something I was excited about, and I would just write, and it felt so good. They
Mhm.
were called vignettes.
Mm.
I don't know if that
Mhm.
they were called
Mhm.
vignettes, but we
Mhm.
had 5 vignettes we had to write, 5 paragraphs for each one. So I had a lot of writing to do. And it was step by step every day. And I don't know why. I was like, "Oh, I have to write." And then I would just love it, and it was insane. And then at the end of the year, I'm like, "Okay, so I can draw really well and I can write, which is insane. I'm like my dad now." So, okay, cool. Going back to my dad, that's how then my dad's like, "You're kind of turning into me." And I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of am, I guess. I guess I'm just amazing and better than you, but I'm like, I did
That's
this in
funny.
8th grade. It took you what, a couple other years?"
Mhm.
So,
Do do you appreciate your gifts?
yes, I do. I like them a lot. It
Yeah.
makes me happy that I have
Mm.
something, because sometimes you feel like you have nothing, and then I look at my horse and I'm like, "Oh, wait, never mind."
Mm.
Because some days it's like, it doesn't matter what you've done or how much you've done, or you could be really happy one moment about everything and then completely forget about it, like, within a week, and then be like in such a horrible place and be like, I have nothing. That was an old thing, and now this is a different life set. And then like you have to really take it into yourself and be like, it doesn't matter how long ago it was, that is still an achievement that you did. And it's not easy to just be like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, you really at points in life are so low where you don't even see your achievements anymore, even if it's like right in
Mm.
front of your face. And so you really have to be with the, like, I did this and I'm going to just focus on that right now. I don't care that maybe, like, for me, it was, I'm not dancing as much as I want to. I lost a ton of friends. I don't have many friends. No one likes me for who I am, and I don't know how to, I don't want to change, but I feel like I have to. And then you're like, I'm not good at anything because I clearly can't keep friends. So I don't know how to. And then
What's the
I
point?
looked up,
Yeah.
yeah, so I looked at my horse drawing, and I'm like, that's it. And I just looked at the picture once and I said, you know what? Who cares? I drew that horse and I'm going to be proud of it. And that's what I'm going to focus on.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that there's been a lot of value for me in being able to recognize and look at some of these gifts that I've had throughout my own life, because I think that at points when life does become challenging and when I've hit lows in my life, it was recognizing all that I already was that helped me get through it. Which I was really interested in when you were talking about gifts and recognizing, and sounds like also reflecting back on what some of the people mirrored back to you as
Yeah.
far as your own abilities. Did you recognize these gifts on your own, or did you have to have other people's feedback and perspectives given to you? Like, hey, you're very good at drawing. You're a very good dancer. You're very good this. And then you started to pay attention to those things, or were you just intuitive kind of within your own experience and started to see that, you know what, I am a really good dancer.
It
I
was
can
very
draw very
intuitive,
well.
yes. Yeah, it was intuitive. It was, when you feel like happy and excited, and like I remember it was just like within seconds of finishing it, like I felt happy. I was almost like practically dancing in the classroom. Like it's just a self knowing to like know. If you don't feel that good about it, then you you it just like it has to come intuitive, at least in my perspective, to know, oh really, wow, like I'm that good, because you'll get this like pounding in your chest and you're like, oh
Mm.
my god, I did it. And you're like,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's for dancing too. It was like I felt it. Like I felt happy on stage, like when I did my summer concert and stuff. We were dancing on stage and it just felt so alive, and I was like, I'm doing this and I don't care what anyone thinks, and people call me crazy for dancing in the halls all the time, and I'm like, I'm not caring anymore, this is fun. And then I get off stage and they're like, wow, you're really good, and I'm like, thanks, but earlier you said I look stupid, so I'm like, I don't care if I look stupid, okay, I'm having fun, just let me have fun.
Do you get a different pull for each one of those? Do you get a different
Yes.
level of emotion, excitement when you're dancing compared to drawing, writing,
Yeah, when
music?
I'm yeah. Music, when I'm done, I feel like I got it off my shoulders. I got out all the words, and it's like a quiet excitement. It's like everything's inside, and I'm like,
Mm.
yay! And then when I finish a drawing, I'm like, oh my god, everyone needs to look at this right now. I'm so proud of it. And then when I'm dancing, it's more just independently, like I can do this. I got all the moves. Like I'm a powerhouse. I got this, and I love what I do. And
Wow.
that's my excitement.
I never thought about it that way, but that makes perfect sense. And I'm so glad that you shared that because that's what it made me think. I was like, I wonder how I show up in all of these different passions and what level of excitement that I bring. Because with some of them, I'm the same exact way. Some of them, I definitely seek external validation, right?
Yep.
Everyone look at this, how cool this is. And then for others, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yep.
Some of the things I actually tend to even keep to myself now that I think about it. And
Yeah.
that brings me probably the same level of excitement, just different.
Yeah. It's very like when you ride a bike for the first time. It's like you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to push forward, you don't know how to use the brake really, and then it's like an abrupt stop. And you're like,
Mm.
okay, how do I learn how to ride a bike? Like for me, I'm a very independent kind of person. Like I take charge of everything. Like I need things to kind of go my way, which I feel really bad about if I'm in a group project or something. For like my culinary class I'm in, I feel very bad. I like warn them ahead of time. I'm like, I'm so sorry if I'm really bossy, but just know I mean it with love, because
Mm.
I just, something about me is just I need to take charge sometimes, and if you don't do if you don't do things the way I like want, then I don't know, I might get a little annoyed, and I don't want you to take it personally. It's just who I
Mm.
am.
I didn't know
So
you started a class. When did you start that class?
I had it the whole semester. So for my school, I'm doing part time,
Okay.
and so I do 4 classes of like extracurricular. Like I do culinary fashion. I'm in a sports marketing class, which is okay, and then a drama class. I don't know if I said that one too, but drama,
Mm-hmm.
culinary, fashion, and sports marketing.
Did
So
you did you pick all of them?
yeah, I did. You get to pick. So you get to pick all your classes if you do part time. If you don't, then you only get to pick limited, and you don't really get to choose your schedule. But for part timers, you get to choose your entire schedule. So it's really
Mm.
fun going through that process of like, oh, what do I want to do? Ooh, when do I want to start class? Ooh. So then it was exciting. So my first class is culinary. And it's really nice because I get there a little bit early. The class starts at 11:36, so I get there around, I don't know, like 10:30, 10:40, so I can have lunch with my friends and then like take my first like 30 minutes or so to be with my friends and just evolve into the school setting. Then get into culinary where I have to kind of pace myself because I will get ahead of myself and then control everyone. Be like, you have to use this measuring cup. Ah! But yeah, throughout the day, it just gets more and more fun for me now. And before, I remember third grade being so bad. You have to read this book. You have to read this many chapters. And I would just be like, you're speaking complete gibberish to me right now. Like, I have no idea. You're speaking another language. I don't understand. And now I'm like, I got everything. Yes. Like, I remember I would fail a test and I'd be like, I tried so hard. And now I'm like, I got an A.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you say that class started at 11:36?
Yeah.
I thought I misheard that. Why so specific? Why not 35?
Because that's just the way the school, because the whole school goes from 8:30 or
Okay.
8:45 to 3:12. So whatever, and there's 45 minutes in each period plus a 3-minute break in between each class period, but every class is 45 minutes, so do the math. But
Okay.
it has specific timing for each class, so I get there a little bit earlier just so I can have like a couple minutes to eat lunch with my friends, and then it does like my actual first class starts at like 11:36.
3-minute breaks? Wow.
It's horrible. It's like it seems like
I don't
a lot.
remember my breaks being that short. I mean, it took me at least 3 to 5 minutes to get
No,
to
they
my
want you to
locker to get
just
everything and
yeah.
get to the classroom.
It's horrible because I think they had like 6 minutes at one point, but people were spending too much time in the halls with their friends, so they just shortened it to 3 minutes.
Wow.
I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, and do you have a bell in between classes too?
It's horrible. It's like when you herd cattle, it's like ding 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 ding. All the cattle have to
Oh,
go, and
sure.
then you're in traffic in the halls,
Yeah.
and then you have to go to another class, and it's like very factory like, right? Like that's what the schools were for, to like teach people how to be in factories and everything. And now like a lot of people are opting out of it and doing homeschooling or part-time or whatever now because no one wants to like work in factories anymore, so like what's the point? So I just changed the narrative because I can't, like last year I basically almost failed every class freshman year because I just could not keep up. I was like 3-minute passing periods, one study hall, 5 different classes. I'm not, and
That's
then they're like, well, you
intense.
can take an extra study hall. I'm like, I'm not wasting one of my fun classes for an extra study hall to get stuff done. I'm like, what are you, crazy? It was insane. I'm like, why is it so structured? I hate this. And then it was like all my classes, I was like, there was maybe one class I didn't really mind being in. It was awful though. And then this year it's like I love it. So I'm really happy.
Well, you also, I think, went into the school at a very different period of time than probably most people have.
Yeah.
You've experienced COVID, and that's probably a first-time experience for you. It certainly was for me, and I wasn't even
Yeah.
in school. So
Yeah.
I could tell for me, with COVID, my relationships changed, my friendships changed, and I was just curious, how did people deal with that in school? Because your interactions probably changed, right?
Oh yeah,
Did your
I
friends
had the
change a lot too?
oh yeah, cause I switched schools midway,
Oh,
or like
right, you
actually halfway
did.
through COVID.
I forgot.
Yeah, I went to a private school which had maybe 10 kids in each class for each grade in a very small school. So it was the same people every year. So it was like we were family, kind of, in a way, but I didn't like anyone there. And then we had to go online on Google Meets or something like that
Sure.
and use that for like Google Classroom and whatever else we had to get done. It was insane. And then I remember that year I ended up leaving to go to a different middle school because I was in 6th grade at the time. So I went to a public middle school for 2 years. And 7th grade I think was pretty much all, I think it was the whole year was online for 7th grade too. And then 8th grade, no, I think it was halfway through 7th grade. then we started going into buildings, more structured. And then I
Mhm.
think 8th grade, everyone just went into buildings. So
Wow.
8th grade was my first real public high school experience. And then other than that, it was kind of just very odd. Kind of like 3rd through 7th grade was like a very like mind bending. Like think of
Mm.
like one of those lava lamps that like
Huh.
it's like that's how my brain was. It
I
was
could
just
only imagine.
it was
I can only
crazy.
imagine like going through what you're going through. But it also brings up for me a point that you mentioned at the very beginning of this, and it's the pressure, right? Dealing with pressure. And that was going to be actually my question to you as well. How are you dealing? How have you dealt with the pressure of just everyday life? All of these things needing to become a certain person, having to get to certain points within your own life. Like, how do you deal with pressure? How do you deal with pressure at this point in your life?
Good question. I kind of take people's information now. I assess whether it is if part of it is true to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
people call me selfish. I'm like, am I actually selfish? I go through, see if any of it alignment. If not, not. If it is, I take accountability and I move on. But
Mm.
it's basically more just I have to accept that I'm not perfect and I'm gonna make mistakes, and so does everyone else. Not that everyone else is going to, but
Hmm.
I'm on a different. And to my parents have told me this so many times. I'm so different in like a, and not in like I don't know, I'm so different like in a bad way, but like I think very differently than the average Joe at like anywhere. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
very hard for me to have friends because of like certain things or like certain like ideas I have, or like I am one to not care. I will go dancing in the street for all I care. Like I will just have fun with life. I don't care. And
Mm.
people find that so weird and they're like, yeah, goodbye. I'm like, okay then you don't have to stick around. I don't care. But like that was definitely hard growing up, is like learning how to be with judgment and not take it personally. I still struggle with it, but it's getting a lot better of like, okay, you called me selfish, and okay, people said I'm selfish before, cool. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm Sophia, so I can't really do anything about it, but I make mistakes,
Mm.
like we all do.
Do you ever miss that component though? Do you ever miss the component of mm, what's the right way to put it? Not having some of these deeper, closer bonds, or always having, not always, but often having to navigate between different friend groups? Or
I mean,
has it just become the norm and it's like, hey, this is what it is and this is what I'm choosing?
it's becoming more normal for me, but there is sometimes where I do miss my old friends, and I do wish that, you know, people could understand, or like I could go back to when
Mm.
people like actually enjoyed hanging out with me before they were thought I was too much or whatever. Like that is something that is extremely difficult to deal with, being an only child that thinks very differently. And like mainly I connect with people who are like way older than me. Like I literally am friends with a 30
Same.
year old and I like have friends that are seniors, and because there's just like they're so chill. Like they just talk, and that's like all I care about is like having fun, not caring. And people my age now are like they care about their looks. They want to be on social media. I'm like, I want to throw up every time you say that. I'm like, if
Hmm.
you want to take a photo and post it on Instagram, I'm like, I want to puke. If I
Hmm.
do, it's because I want to express myself, but they want to do it because of likes. And anytime I think of a hashtag, I literally am like, ugh, like go
Hmm.
away. I'm like, I don't want.
Hmm.
If you hashtag me or go hashtag I like this, I'm like, go away, no thank you. And then I just revert to my friends that are like, hey, stop. Do you want to go? I'll drive to a boba shop. Do you want to come with? I'm like, yes, I want boba right now.
Hmm. That's
So
awesome.
it's
Speak.
honestly amazing. Yeah.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, it's probably very freeing, right? To be
Yeah.
in that space. where you actually have the ability to choose.
Yeah, it's like we'll just sit in a parking lot some days and just talk. It doesn't really matter where we are. Like some days we'll go fishing or play tennis. I don't know. We just like it's very fun. It's like you don't know where you're going. You just say we're gonna hang out. I don't know where or what yet, but we're just gonna hang out, and that's what I love about it. Is there's no structure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For anyone that's going to be curious in learning about who you are, your music especially, where do people find that?
It's on YouTube it's Seiji Swift. It's like SAIGEY Swift. Like it's such a funky name, and I'll explain it because not to everyone it might be a little confusing. But
Sure.
so my best friend, her name is Paige. She's 30 years old. She used to babysit me since I was like 3 years old, and we just had like this connection, right? Like I'm like I have a connection with people that are older than me. So she's like become part of our family now, and she does music for a living. Paige Hargrove, if you want to go follow her, she's amazing, and she's very good at guitar, and she would teach me guitar, and she literally played a song for me when I was maybe 4 years old, and I started crying. I was so emotional, and like I loved it. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine." It's just so good. And I remember just being amazing, and it was like I was like, I want to do this. I want to do music. I'm like, I will one day do this. And she taught me how to play guitar. I think once COVID started, I think I've been doing it for like 3-4 years now
Oh,
of
wow.
playing
That's
guitar and
impressive.
stuff. So she's taught me guitar. She's like, I think you should write a song. I think that's an amazing idea. I'll help you out. Like, let's get this thing going. I was like, yes, of course. I'd love that. And anytime I write a song, it's about like things other people can relate to, or just like how I'm feeling. I haven't done one in like a couple years, but
I was going
I
to
do
say,
have
when is the next one coming out?
I don't
Well,
know,
there was
man.
one, right? Without fully revealing it here. There was one you were working on.
I
I
was
remember
working on
last
it. I
time you
don't
and I talked,
know.
and
I don't know. See what I end up doing because she's having a baby in November 27th, so I'm excited. So maybe once she has the baby, after a little bit, we'll get another song going. But right now, I have 2 songs out. But yeah, it's very exciting.
and one was for your
Grandma.
grandma.
One was for
And
my
what was
grandma.
and the second
Talking
one?
to the moon.
Yes. Which
Yeah.
one did you play for me when I
I played you both, I think.
okay. And the second
So
one was for your
it was for me and my journey through life. It was if
yes.
I so like if I is based off of me through 8th grade, I believe was when I wrote my first one. The second one I wrote I think a couple months later, and
Sure.
it's about me evolving through what people say. And if you listen to the lyrics, it's actually very like deep, and it takes a different understanding to get what I'm saying in the song because it's very personal. But there's some stuff in it that if you can connect to it, it's very mind opening, and it's like, oh, people say this, I'm gonna do that. People say this, I'm gonna do that. That's if I talking through the moon is me talking to my grandma about 8th grade. I was graduating that year, and I was like, my grandma had passed away a couple of years previous, and I wanted to write. I always wanted to do something for my grandma. She loved hearing me sing, and she would always tell me to sing for her. And so I said, you know what, my first song is gonna be for her. And so that song I wrote was just a life update. It was like, I'm gonna graduate and I'm talking to you, and I've been like excited to see where I go. What am I gonna do? Do you know, grandma? And then I'm like, she is the moon to me, so she represents the moon. So I look up at the moon and I talk about how I go into my backyard and everything. And if you just listen to the lyrics again, it explains the whole thing. And to a lot of people, my mom has this group that she does with quantum physics, and so my lyrics are kind of in the same genre. So she was like, "Can I play this at my meeting?" And I said, "Of course." And so she plays it, and everyone is emotional. They're like, "I can connect. I feel this." I'm like, they're like, "I don't know how or why your grandma represents me, but for some reason it just does, or the lyrics or something. I don't know, man, but I just love your music." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you. Oh my god." That's another
That's
thing. Like,
awesome.
I didn't think me writing music could mean so much to other people. I was honestly like kind of shocked. Like, um, there's like people and they're like, "You could be the next Taylor Swift." I'm like, "Well, I don't want to be Taylor Swift. I don't want to have to go in popcorn boxes and
Sure.
hide and try and
Sure.
have security on me." I'm like, "I don't want fame." They're like, "Why don't you want fame?" I'm like, "What's the point?" Like, you can see like Taylor Swift is obviously like have like people. She can't go anywhere without security on her. I'm like, I just want to be Sophie Kies. I'm just gonna be
Mhm.
Sophie Kies.
Mhm.
And people
What's
are like,
what's
"That's interesting."
what's the name of the channel again?
Sagey Swift.
Sagey Swift.
Yeah.